Hey everybody, this is Rydo, and we are back to another live stream of Magic the Gathering Arena. First things first, I will want to report that Max did gift me Ben and Ed. I will get around to playing it as soon as possible, and I do want to definitely say thank you and be appreciative of it. He is already on the chat asking if I received the gift. Yes, I did. Uh, Quite the hassle to get into Magic Arena today. Uh, it My internet didn't want to download very fast, and I thought I'd be smart and try and reset the router, and then that corrupted the update, which was just a massive update of 1.47 gigs for cards being banned and them setting up for the new expansion. I don't think Core 2021 is available yet, but it seems like they are preloading a lot of the art assets and the code assets um, early. And feels like they should do that in smaller bursts. Certainly, particularly when they're going to be very cheap and not have fast servers. We also have bans. So, Fires of Intervention and Agents of Treachery are banned pretty much from standard. And then they also have been suspended for historic, which generally means that there really isn't as much of a difference between historic and standard in arena as there should be. It's not just standard and wild to Hearthstone comparison, because in wild there was basically nothing that was ever just permanently banned. Now, in all fairness, Hearthstone was a digital only card game, so if there was something that they wanted to just ban from everything, they just would change the card, and they did that for far too many cards. Here, they're banning everything from every kind of play except for friendly play, but they aren't changing the cards because they're paper cards and they can't get away with that. Although it does seem like they've even done some of that as far as rule changes with how companions work. And apparently I get a rare wild card, maybe because I owned one of those cards and they're now banned. Yeah. So, let's see. Max. Let's see. See, he says, okay, I'm going to finish watching a video and then I'm going to return here. Fine. Like, I don't demand viewers, certainly, or make demands of fans or viewers. That's a ridiculous thing for a content creator to try and do. So they want to make this really big. They boned it up basically, as far as companion rules. And so this first generation of printed companions might be worth quite a lot, but maybe not, because the rule itself may have never actually been printed on the card. So reprints of these cards may say the exact same words. The old rule was if your starting deck met the companion restrictions, you may choose it to be your companion and cast it from outside the game. The new rule is if your starting deck meets the companion's restrictions, you may choose it to be your companion, and once per game you may pay 3 uncolored mana anytime you could cast a sorcery to put your chosen companion into your hand. So the big difference here is no longer are you casting it by its actual cost, which often was more than 3 uncolored mana or 3 mana even combined. You are instead having to pay an extra 3 uncolored mana to put it into your hand, which then lets your opponent do a hand wipe action that would kill it and remove it from the possibility of being played. On top of which, once it's in your hand, you still have to pay its actual cost. So the only way this could have been a smaller nerf is if you only had to pay 2 uncolored mana or 1 uncolored mana. or if you paid no uncolored mana, but then you just put it in your hand for free. So that does feel like that is a major increase. When you have something here that's a 5 mana character, you're effectively spending 8 mana. And from what I've heard, most people did kind of see that the companion concept had just taken over Magic more than I think people really wanted it to, because it overwrit the ability to play any decks without companions. I think the concept maybe still has some legs on it. I think maybe eventually we will get to a point where everybody has a companion they actually want to play and it makes sense to play it, but certain people could certainly still choose not to play companions. Also, yeah, I've really failed to re-roll anything, so one of these should have been re-rolled. And I'm a little concerned here also because we have only 1,700 gold, and Core 2021 is coming to the store soon. So it does feel like maybe a month at most. You can see even the server here is being particularly slow. And they want your standard spend $100 to get a whole bunch of things. What is this actual deal? Can we look at it? And as I understand it, these are just all skins, so we don't have to worry about that. Core 2021 is really just reskins. Seems like this pack of styles. They're now making bundles of different kinds. So this feels like you would get 2 Planeswalker copies, or 1 Planeswalker and a cosmetic, and the card back. And then you have this other bundle that seems like it gives you a premium arena entry and 3 regular arena, regular draft entries, and a card back, and then another companion, and another Planeswalker with another thing. And if you buy both, you get this pet, which is a dog, and they definitely are trying to push you to want to buy the dogs. And we'll almost certainly see some more sleeves. So yeah, another noisy dog character that lots of people will fall for. Maybe it's time to change the avatar again. Let's see. Let's go ahead and just do this. I think we'll just go through all of the avatars about once after a week, just to make sure we've tried them all once. Yeah. Now, here's a link to a website that would talk about the mastery overview, which will just talk about the mastery pass that's going to come out, which I don't have enough gems for it. And then here's the link to a website for today's previews. And then Friday Night Magic at Home we'll have to do because we want these 2 at least rare cards. But there is one thing we can try. How is this? Where do you put in the coupon codes? Redeem code. So, typically, there's a code that works, and I probably won't be able to guess it, but let's try play MTGA 21. So play MTGA 21 is not it. Let's see, play Core 21. play Core 21, not it either. There's a code, certainly something along that lines, but I don't know the exact words, or maybe just that code doesn't work yet, that will give us a free pack of Core 21 cards. But unfortunately, unlike Hearthstone, I don't think I can go in here and say click not collected and then select Core Magic Core Set 2021. Yeah, it's just not an option. And yeah, so with that, there's no way to start to look at cards, and you can't really look at the cards at all until they're all out anyways. Right, so just start here, take this, take our standard black deck, jump in here, and I guess we'll just warm up and we'll go. As for the accountability section, I'm still working with the Evil Within 2. I got into a section a couple of episodes previous that I had recorded where it felt like it was just going to put us through a straight line to a boss fight. And then after going through a straight line and kind of doing a boss fight, it didn't really open up to a point where it felt like it wasn't just going to put me in another straight line to another boss fight. Like, it feels like the game, when it is not just trying to make direct copy and paste scenes and scenarios from Resident Evil 4 and really just be a total clone of that game. It seems like it just runs out of steam and has nothing to show me. In fact, there's one section where you're just in a darkened cave area. Basically, there's very little walls. There's enemies all over the place, for sure, but you could probably have just snuck past or walked past all of them or run past all of them fairly easily. On top of which, I finally unlocked the final tier ability that you get, which just lets you hit the Y button and then slow down time and then line up a headshot, and when you shoot the headshot and the zombie gets hit and dies, then it pulls you out, and all that costs is stamina, which is insane because stamina can be infinite if you have a Bethesda account. So in theory, I haven't tried it yet, but in theory I could just have infinite stamina mode on and I could aim a shot at every single bad guy in the game, headshot them before they're even capable of moving fast. There's not really any enemy that moves fast except for like the first main boss in the game, and so that main boss in the game probably wouldn't even be able to be defeated with that ability. So it really does wrap up all of the Evil Within 2 into being a very heavy action game. There's a character that was introduced that I thought they were introducing either to have some co-op sections, which they had maybe 2 minutes of co-op sections, and then forgot about it, or if they were trying to introduce this character as being a character that you might play as a DLC element, where you play as this female character. But they kill her off, like, so you meet her, and in less than 3 hours you kill her off, and her importance in the story is not a lot. It's not really like she was a character that you would have had enough time to get to know and like, for you to be really upset that she had died. So yeah, it just seems like it was bad writing and lazy writing. There's way too many characters in Evil Within 2 to begin with, and it would be very beneficial if they simply did combine many of the characters together. If anything, you could have easily combined the first Mobius operator that you found, Liam. If you had combined him in such a way that now, is it wise to use Witch's Oven on this and then hope to be able to defend with this? No. Just let him do it. It doesn't matter. Yeah, the main character Liam, the first character you find, does kind of nothing in the story until he's reintroduced very late in the story, and I'm trying not to spoil anything. And then when he's reintroduced very late in the story, he kind of tragically dies, and they try to make it a tragic death. So it would have been fairly easy to just combine this female character that you meet probably 10 or 11 hours later after you meet Liam. Just combine that female character with Liam, deal and just talk with that character more, and then have that main character die in the same tragic way. Like, it would have worked better as a merger. And there's some other characters certainly that it feels like you could fairly easily merge also into one character, so that there would just be a tight 4 or 5 characters in the game. I don't even know if you needed. It feels like there's going to be 3 main bosses in Evil Within 2, and it feels like you could have merged at least the first 2 bosses together, and have maybe more sub bosses that just are unimportant. In comparison to Resident Evil 4, there really is only about 5 to maybe 8 named important characters that have personalities and talk, and the rest of the enemies that Resident Evil that you fight, a lot of the bosses are just giant zombies, or they're bug creatures, or they're something along that line where you just kind of know them as a monster. You're introduced to them like 5 minutes before you fight them. You fight them, and they serve the purpose that they were supposed to serve, and that's good enough. Here we have Max talking on the chat. He says, "Okay, I'm back." See, Max says, "Okay, so I bought it for myself too, and my PC can barely handle it, but I beat the second even with the legs happening every lags." I imagine what he meant to say. Yeah, lags. I misread that. So hope you have a good PC and you don't have to go through the nightmare. Max is talking about Ben and Ed. We'll see. I do have a fairly decent PC, but it is also getting a little long in the tooth, and I'm actually thinking about, instead of having like an 8-core, I think it's an i5 or i7 processor. The description of my PC is in the in the descriptions of all my videos, but I don't know off the top of my head. It's kind of a 4 or 5 generation old PC, so it should handle it, if anything can handle it. More and more what I run into as a problem, though, is it's not that my PC is uniquely weak, it's that some games are just uniquely badly run. The Lego games are a great example of that. Like, all the Lego games on PC ever since Windows 10 have just not been updated to run well, and so they do have this micro stuttering frame pacing error that is just in its engine. It really doesn't have anything to do with my PC. I also did upgrade to an RTX 2080. I also have to mention, I do know that there was a streamer that tried to cover Ben and Ed, and they had to go on quite the epic rant because Ben and Ed was playing music that was like classical music, and somebody on YouTube was content ID claiming it. An update is available. In the middle of a game, really? Like, don't tell me that bull. But so I may have to mute all the music if I get a bunch of content IDs at some point in the future. If I ever get monetized again, or otherwise it may just have ads that somebody else is running ads on my videos. There is also the small possibility Ben and Ed it just gets a little frustrating or repetitive, so I might rage quit on it. Just if it's really annoying to do all the platforming, particularly if it is micro studying, that is definitely a possibility, because I have no special endurance for laggy games. Let's see, what do we want to do here? He's got no cards, so I can't just like block this. But I'm gonna win, so... Yeah, we'll just have to see. If everything lines up well, there's a decent chance that I can justify in my head to play Ben and Ed for October's Halloween month lineup, because it probably is a somewhat kid-friendly game while still being in the Halloween theme. Typically I try to play horror games, really the scariest of the scary, during October, but there is definitely a justification to try to play something that is just more kid-friendly for one of the time slots, and I haven't played any game like that yet. Let's see, Max says. Yeah. Max says the second boss is the nightmare boss. And he says, okay, I know which song you're talking about, and it's really quiet, so if you talk, YouTube won't hear it. Well, I can usually guarantee I do blabber on and talk when talking about it and when covering games. And honestly, like, I haven't gotten a lot of content ID claims in a while. I got an odd one just the other night from covering the E3 Microsoft Xbox conference from either last year or 2 years ago, and yeah, those were nightmares of content ID claims. But most video games music is perfectly fine. Perhaps if I was to play GTA and they were going to play a bunch of pop music, that would be a problem, and I'd probably turn off the radios in those cases. But I really haven't run into a lot of problems with content ID lately, which might just mean that YouTube has stopped caring about content ID for non-monetized videos, or just stopped informing me when people make claims. Is there anything else in the accountability section we need to talk about as far as the Evil Within 2? No. I imagine if I can just find enough time to finish it, I'll finish it either later tonight, if I do some recordings later tonight, which I very possibly won't, or over the weekend. I am constantly now running into problems where it is getting worse and worse as far as trying to stay in a chair. Like, more and more I am just hitting the pause button and running off to the bathroom and 10-20 minutes into a stream. And certainly it's not any helpful if I'm sitting in a chair trying to stream like Magic Arena, and then it takes 10 or 20 minutes or 40 minutes to update. As we cover the news today, I do want to mention I'm still going to try and not talk about protests, but I will say, in general, for people trying to avoid the protest, video game companies are making it really, really difficult. And there's been cases where not just that they're putting up support on Twitter, which is fine, and their social media, but there's been one game that took its servers down completely for an hour, allegedly in honor for it. I probably took its servers down just to do some service on the servers. And another game has put a loading message into the game itself showing support. And there are people out there that I think maybe for many different reasons, we'll just put them in one big group, don't want their life distraction game and their relaxation games to all of a sudden bring in the horrors of reality in their face. And that there's actual people with mental problems that probably were coming to video games to relax and avoid trauma, and now they can't even have it, including the people who are probably most infected by the Black Lives Matter movement. There's, I'm sure, plenty of black people out there that just want to play a game and just want to get away from it all for a while. And video games are just not in the position shouldn't be in the position and shouldn't be moving so deep into this virtue signaling, particularly when a significant amount of them are not doing anything with any power a video game company might have, or any money more likely that a video game company might have. There's been considerably fewer video game companies have actually donated anything compared to the ones that have just changed a Twitter bio. And it's just not their place. It's the news reporter's place. If I want to see news, I'll turn on the news, and I'll have to put up with whatever news station I choose and whatever bias is in that news station I choose. But if I want to play video games, I expect to be able to play video games. I don't expect people to take down servers. I don't expect people to put up messages of a political nature. This is in part the argument where certain, mostly SJWs, have argued that all video games are political, and that argument just never rings true. But certainly there are some games that want to have a story that is somewhat a political statement, but maybe just ever so slightly based off political events. Far Cry 5 is kind of a great example of that. It's like they wanted to have something that was sort of stealing some ideas from actual events, but not really making any hard political statement. Whereas The Last of Us 2, I think, is probably trying to make a little bit more of a hardcore political statement, and there definitely are some games, a lot of troll games and a lot of indie games out there that are 100% we are making a political statement, and there's barely even a game there. Papers, Please is a game that, again, makes kind of a general statement against oppressive import laws, whereas Not Tonight is a direct statement against Brexit. So if I know that going in, that I might run into something that is slightly political in the game, I'm fine with it. But when you're adding it after the fact to a game, that's a bit of a problem. The Call of Duty military first-person shooters games have always been made some small statement about the horrors of war, while also kind of aggrandizing the war and the military. Whereas Fallout, it has a very weak "war never changes, war is always awful" statement, but it's not ever put in any real world terms or any comparison. I'd really hate if Fallout 5 came out and there was a Donald Trump AI robot running around. Generally, when video game developers put in their political beliefs, it manages to piss off at least 50% of their populace, and it's just not a good idea. Whereas, like, Deus Ex, like, there's all kinds of politics in the Deus Ex series, but they are sci-fi politics that have no relation to anything that is happening at the time. So it's just good sci-fi writing at that point. See, Max has been chatting away. Let's see. He says, I am mentally disordered. It's not bad because at least I have a really high IQ. Okay, I need some sleep, have fun. Dude, okay. He says he has Asperger's. Yep. But, and I don't know if I really meant particularly people with cognitive more than disorders, is more than people with emotional disorders that would want to escape and avoid real life unpleasantness. I was thinking more depressed people and things like that, but it's probably true for a lot of people. Yeah. But yeah. Video games should just stay in their lane. It's really a easy rule. They should just know their lane and stay in it. It doesn't get any more complicated than that. Make video games entertain people. If you compare this to a movie, sure. If I'm going to go watch Schindler's List, I'm going to get a deeply emotionally traumatizing story about the horrors of Holocaust Nazi Germany. You probably knew that going in watching Schindler's List. That's fine. If I'm going to go watch Friday the 13th one, I'm going to see a horror story. I expect to see a horror story that is a fictional horror that has nothing to do with any real world events. There was no, like, Jason Voorhees in reality. But if I'm going to go watch an Adam Sandler movie, and it's an Adam Sandler comedy in particular, and not one of his more serious roles, I don't expect there to be major political rant in the middle of that. So, yeah, I'm not saying that I think all video games should always avoid politics. I think video games that want to address that should do that from the word go. They should tell the consumer, because inherently I'm about consumers and consumer advocacy and consumer advice. So the consumer should know what they're getting into it. And I would say that even on a certain level, the games like Gone Home were slightly more political than you would have known going in, because it did kind of leave you with this mystery story. And at the end, oops, Well, I just lost because I wasn't paying attention. Like at the end of the story of Gone Home, you realize that your younger sister has, I think, decided to run off with her lesbian lover instead of joining the military, or the ROTC or something, or going to like a military academy, and they ran off to Mexico or something. And it was very much an empowerment and rah-rah LGBT stuff, and just learning something about your sister after being away for a while also walking around a dark house that you'd never been in before that was fairly creepy, and it made it seem like you were going to get spooked with a ghost jump scare at any point, and it never actually happens. So I tortured myself in that playthrough, really for no reason. But yeah, I would argue if you were just not wanting that, if you were, say, letting a, like, well, even now it's kind of regressive to say if you were letting a 10-year-old play Gone Home, and you were trying to shelter them from knowing that lesbians exist and that they can have relationships, even that seems by modern standards to be pretty regressive, and overly conservative viewpoint. But yeah, that storyline was snuck in there, certainly. But that also was the main point of the story. Like, they went in from the word go wanting that to be the storyline. They didn't add that after the fact. This wasn't tokenism that they just threw in a token lesbian character. Like, that was the main point of the game. And I think if you compare that to the criticism that Far Cry 5 was not political enough, that's when you start to have things fall apart. Because if it was the intention for the developers of Gone Home to have the story be that there was a lesbian sister who ran off with her lover to Mexico, then it was also the intention of the developers of Far Cry 5 to have a cult, that a religious cult that really was not very political or offensive and was just a generic sci-fi cult character. Like, and if they wanted originally to have a milquetoast story, I don't think it really is fair to say, well, they didn't rock the boat because they didn't want to rock the boat, therefore they deserve to lose points. Not all art has to be aggressive in your face and challenging normalcy or challenging the status quo. That sometimes you can just paint a fruit bowl. Sometimes you can just be paint a flower and it mean nothing. I mean, imagine if somebody were to criticize Van Gogh's sunflowers for simply not being edgy enough or not being political enough. How ridiculous would that statement really sound? Anyways, I went on a bit of a rant there. But yeah, it's like I fully understand and support the protests that are happening for the most part. I don't support the agent provocateurs that seem to exist or the rioters that seem to often happen in different parts of the city. But also I'm a video game journalist of some small part. Like I talk about video game news, and none of this has anything to do with video games. This is way bigger than video games, and so it is best that video games and video game journalists and content creators just step back and let people who know what they're talking about talk. And I should just stay in my lane for the most part, and I'm trying as hard as possible to stay in my lane and just talk about video games for people who just want to hear about video games. So, in that spirit, moving on, Gamatsu has an article here. The Namcot Museum adds Pac-Man Championship Edition Famicom Arranged version as a bonus title. So, this Namcot collection. I don't know if Namco still goes by the name Namcot, or if they are just naming it the Namcot edition because it was Namcot back then. Wouldn't be surprised if it was just that. See how we're just like running out of network all over the place? Outdated client version. Alright, so load again and let's see while this is going how long this is going to take. Well, it says it has to download 341 megabytes as an update, and it is taking not as much as it should. It's going a little bit faster than the first update, but it is going like 1 megabyte, 2 megabytes, 3 megabytes. I have like 100 megabits download, and I'm not seeing any drop frames as far as my upload or anything like that. So it really is just Magic Arena servers suck right now. Yeah. So let's just start covering the news. Either that or I'm going to have to run to the bathroom maybe, and then that'll give me an excuse. Kingdoms of Amalur Re-Reckoning has been announced for the PS4, Xbox One, and PC, a remastered version of the February 2012 released action RPG. There's some weird stories around Kingdoms of Amalur. I believe New Jersey funded the development of an MMO called Kingdoms of Amalur. A second company spun off and maybe even embezzled some work and some money. I think there was a lawsuit. I don't know if the lawsuit actually won any money back for the state of New Jersey. So they made this side game, Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning, was the only part of that actually came out, and now it's getting re-released. And it's selling for $39.99 unless you want to pay $109.99 for it. So yeah, it's probably not going to interest a lot of people, but we'll see. Alright, so meanwhile, I think I am going to take this as an opportunity. So I'm going to see, we have this idle screen, and I'll bring us to the idle screen, and then I will be back in about 20 minutes. So apologies, but this one time it's not so much my fault as it is Magic's. Let's see. Okay, I'm back. Sorry for that taking so long, and boy is that too loud. I'll have to remind myself to fix that idle music, bring down the volume. And let's back into this. Yep, Magic really kind of sucking right now as far as their servers and their updates. Like the fact that you can just get into a game and then the game decides, oh, you don't have the right version, let's force you out of a game and make you update immediately. Why not let the game play through at the very least? Even if you have to toss the game towards any ranked play because of potential cheating or something like that, if that's really the major concern. Like, even at that, I think most players would prefer a checkbox, a pop-up box that says, hey, you can play this game, but it will be just a friendly game at this point and not count towards any progress. Or you can exit right now and reset and update the client and have to and cancel this game. Yeah. But yeah, the main bigger problem certainly is that it is taking them incredibly long amounts of time to download the updates. Anyways, let's start going through the news a little bit more. And hopefully we can get like a quick victory here. Let's see, Gamatsu has an article here. For the Switch, a Clubhouse Games 51 Worldwide Classic Pocket Editions has been announced. It's due out alongside the full game. So, this seems to be a Switch game that is a combination of a lot of different card games and things. It's not a bad idea. I wouldn't be surprised if it came to the West. It definitely should come to the West. Maybe you don't bother with, maybe you have to bend over to explain a few games. If they have like Japanese chess in there, that would be very hard for a Westerner to play, but you could put a couple of screens trying to basically explain the rules and just half butt that. I could definitely see the benefit. I remember when playing on like some Game Boy, I don't know if it was a Game Boy Color or Advanced or DS or something, I definitely had a Game Boy game that had probably 8 different board games, like tic-tac-toe and things like that. And yeah, back in the day when you didn't have a cell phone in your pocket or websites where you could particularly go and just play those in website frames via JavaScript, playing even tic-tac-toe, just having something to do. And you still have that, particularly if you're younger, particularly if you're going on car trips. I was having this thought, and this doesn't have anything to do with video games, but does anybody ever really enjoy long car trips? Like, I understand if, particularly if you're one driving, you can enjoy driving like a convertible or just driving a car for a couple hours, particularly on the highway road, being able to go faster than you normally would be able to go in the stop and go traffic of city travel. I could understand enjoying that. I could understand wanting to drive for maybe an hour or two. But when you're doing 3, 4, 5 hours or more, if it's taking you 2 or 3 days of driving through a car, if you're going across the United States, those long car trips are not fun, I think, for anybody, let alone kids. And that would be the one situation where, while a kid probably could get internet via cell phone, they might very well have very poor data transmission as you're moving in a car at high speeds, moving through in and out of city coverage, because in between cities, cell phone coverage is typically not that good. So having a Switch that would let you play just offline games does have a certain appeal. Plus, it also stops your kids from actually accessing the internet and going to like Facebook or something that you don't want them to do if they're particularly younger. I'd be much happier having a kid play on a Switch playing Tic-Tac-Toe or Connect 4 or something, compared to them going to Instagram and potentially or TikTok and potentially seeing something inappropriate that you just don't know about it. And the irony in that thought is that a lot of times the jigsaw puzzle games that are available on PC are also selling on lewdness and sex, so there isn't too many even just simplistic basic board games, tabletop games, basic original tabletop games, not the new generation of tabletop games. But yeah, it's the options are not very high there. So I definitely would like to see Clubhouse Games 51 or Clubhouse Games. Seems like there might be. Let's see. Clubhouse Games 51 is a free version of Clubhouse Games 51 Worldwide Classics. So the Pocket Edition is the free version. Interesting. So, yeah, I'm probably not even covering the game well enough here, because if it is actually 51 games, we should watch this trailer and see what all 51 of the games are. Dominoes, you could probably get dozens of dominoes, Connect 4, several card games, race cars, electric race cars. That's the 4 that I think are free. And it seems like it has local multiplayer, so if you happen to have 4 Switches, that definitely seems like something. It's a little shocking though that this isn't being made by Nintendo directly. Or is it? It is being made by Nintendo directly. Interesting. So it definitely should come to the West. There's no justification at that point for it not to. Yeah. And that is something that really should have been day one on the Switch. And in all honesty, with the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X, those two should be things that are just installed by default. Like there really is no reason to not completely have every single PlayStation 5, every single Xbox Series X console just come pre-installed with a whole bunch of demos and a whole bunch of free games. Things that particularly would push people to trying out a free trial of the PlayStation Network or trying out Xbox Live as a service if to play online. They push so much the idea of having backward compatibility and thus having hundreds if not thousands of games playable on day one, and yet all of those games cost money, which makes it a very, very hard sell. Now, I doubt there's too many people that would be spending $500 plus for an Xbox Series X or PlayStation 5 without being willing to spend another $200 on a couple of AAA games. But I imagine there probably is a few people that would like... Oh, actually I should have blocked. I wish I could go back, but I can't. Well, whatever. We'll do this. Even if they just had the 4 games, like the Xbox Series X should have free sell. It should have Klondike Solitaire. It should have whatever the games that Microsoft is traditionally known for having installed or installable with Windows. Right. Can't do anything. But I can attack with this. And I can attack with this. Let's go ahead and end the turn. Next, we have a game on Steam called Mars Flight VR, which looks like it is kind of an asset flip of a Martian terrain or a desert terrain with an asset flip of a flying around camera with an asset flip of a Martian rover item. It doesn't seem like it's anything else on top of that, though. It's early access. It requires VR. It's $10.49, which is a little cheap for a VR game, even if it is just going to be a fly around experience. If you were going to make a game where you're flying around the terrain of Mars, I think at a certain point you have to throw out any idea of reality and make the Martian surface amazingly different. You have to go Doctor Who it and put aliens on it and put pyramids on it and make there be something there worth looking at and talking about, because by default, it's, as far as we know, as the human race knows, it is just a rocky terrain. It's just one giant desert with some polar ice caps, I believe. I think that's pretty much all it is. And this. And we've got this in the bag. Yeah, it would be very hard for him to win. So yeah, that's what we're looking for today, is a lot of wins. It'd be nice if we got quick victories, but yeah, we'll see. And we're looking to move up to rank 80 because I suspect the new expansion shows up in 24 days. That would be my guess. Mastery ends in 19 days. Okay, maybe 19 days. So we have 19 days to get to rank 80 from 64. Which it maybe means I need to focus a little bit more attention on playing Magic. That would really suck to have to take an extra week to just play on off days. But then also in 19 days I don't have enough gems. I just don't have enough gems to buy the mastery, so I don't know how to fix that it without putting more money into Magic. That I really don't want to do that. Moving on, we have a game on Steam called Intro Maker, which is just an asset flip. It's an asset flip program to make intros for either people who are making asset flip games or people who are desperate to have some video game type intro for like a YouTube channel. This is not a new game, though. I've seen this on Steam before. It's $4.24, English only. So either it's gotten taken down and is now being re-uploaded, or it's someone has uploaded it and they don't own the rights to it. I wouldn't be surprised if nobody owns the rights to any of it who has uploaded it to Steam. Yep, very well may just be an asset flip for some program in the Unity or Unreal store. Inherently, if you don't have the capability of programming an in-game cinematic, then you don't have the capability of programming a game. So there's no point, or at least programming a game with in-game cinematics. So there's just no point whatsoever for the software to exist. Like, you're not going to be able to make an intro using some intro maker program, then put it in your game, and then somehow be able to have a great looking game. At best, you'll have a game that has a deceptive intro. And that doesn't really help anybody. Because refunds are a thing, and people will refund the game, and then that will de-rank, I imagine, any promotion your game would get by having it have negative reviews or refunds around it. It really does feel like a lot of people who put games on Steam think that they can really just take the money and run, and they won't get called out on it at the very least, and it doesn't seem like that's really the case. Maybe it makes you slightly more than $100 for that $100 upload listing, but I wouldn't be surprised if it doesn't even do that. Like, that's something Steam certainly should look at. If it is a case that someone can make terrible games and then spend $100 to list their game on Steam, and then they make $1,000 of gross profit or net profit after that $100, then Steam should increase the cost to be listed on the Steam to $1,000. And honestly, I think $1,000 is the right price. And I don't, maybe you do a grant system for certain countries. Like, I'm sure there's several Portuguese, Brazilian game developers out there that really think their games are good and have actual legitimate argument that their games are good, but they don't have $1,000 to list on Steam. At that point, you probably should just have grant systems. Frankly, you should go back to something like Steam Greenlight, but an internal Steam Greenlight, instead of just the popular vote Steam Greenlight that existed before. This one guy is wrecking me. Moving on, we have a game on Steam called Fario Shadowlands, which I don't know if that's some way you pronounce fairy in Chinese, or from a Chinese to English translation. This does look like a very busy Chinese idle clicker game, for lack of a better description. It says it's a turn-based strategy game. Its early access is $5.99. It says it has full audio, English and Chinese. Like a lot of Chinese games, it's just a ton of text and not a lot of gameplay being highlighted. Yeah. And you certainly could look at this video and see that this video here, this intro, at that beginning shows a very different image compared to what the actual gameplay is. So it is more deceptive than I feel like it probably should be. But almost all intros also are at best described as aspirational, at worst described as deceptive. And it's been excused, where if you would compare it to a movie, if you started a movie and it had amazing visuals and great cinematography, and then the rest of the movie was filmed on a 10-year-old cell phone camera, people would be upset about that, certainly. On the other hand, there have been plenty of movies where you've had animated intros that explain what has happened up until a point, and then they've gone to the live action movies, and nobody's ever complained about that so much. So I'm somewhat set for Bola Citadel, but he could certainly take me out also. Moving on, Gematsu has an article. PC Gaming Show 2020 and the Future Games Showcase 2020 have been postponed to June 13th, no longer June 6th. I wouldn't be surprised if these are straight up canceled. Also, we are having this kind of cascading failure now where things that were designed to replace the canceled E3 are now being canceled themselves because of rioting and protesting. I imagine more than that, anything else. And these were live stream events, I believe. So you can't even say they were being canceled because of the plague, the epidemic. So, yeah. It does just seem like for video games, this year is going to kind of constantly be in the state of in a state of questioning as to whether anything is actually going to happen. Which, in a weird way, is not a bad thing, because on the outside of this, there is a decent chance that the next couple of years worth of games are going to just be really bug-free and really polished. And this might finally be a situation where there can be a reduction in crunch, and on top of that, even an introduction of having people in the video game industry work from home. So we may get some really good quality games with them being fewer in number also. And even them possibly being slightly cheaper. Which that too would be nice. But there's no guarantee for any of that to actually happen. Next we have a game on Steam called First Queen #1 Next. This looks like it's basically just an RPG Maker game that seems to want to have quite a lot of characters on the screen, which is interesting. But I definitely don't want to spend $23.99 to check something out like this. It's English and Japanese. Yeah, too many characters on the screen. Even if you were going to sell me on the idea of a game where there was hundreds of people fighting on the screen at the same time, I still would want it to have a little bit better graphics than small pixel characters, which is really all that they were showing there. It was just pixel characters. Game of Sutra doesn't seem like it wants to load. Their servers don't ever work half the time. TechRaptor doesn't Want to load? Very fast. Let's see, no attacks. Nutaku has a advertising agreement with TechRaptor. They have a new side-scrolling battling game called Boobs. I'm centering myself of Fury, or so yeah. They seem to be adding a new game at least every couple of weeks, or at least 2 games every month or so, which in a funny way I kind of wonder if Nutaku isn't funding and buying a bunch of failed, just cheap cell phone games that wouldn't go anywhere, and just telling them, hey, let's just throw in some nudity on top of your game, because that's how it often is it doesn't feel like the game from the ground up was designed or integrated to have nudity in it. I'm still playing College Life as a Simpsons tapped out clone, and yeah, the adult content in it is pretty minimal. You could easily edit it all out and have a regular game that would just be an average Simpsons tapped out clone. But it does have slightly more appeal by targeting itself to the niche market of the adult market. Although I don't know if you really could call the adult market a niche market, but maybe the adult video game, mobile gaming market. And I will say that Nutaku's mobile games aren't great. They don't log in well, and sometimes they don't install at all. In some cases, they seem to be like HTML5 games most of the time. Very simplistic, very poorly designed compared to other games. And you have to have the Nutaku third-party app installer and storefront installed on top of your phone, so yeah, none of it goes through Google Play or Apple, I'm sure. So you probably would have to jailbreak your iOS device to install any of them. And yeah, their quality and the gameplay compared to Destiny Child, which is still going strong and great, is incredibly lower. Like, Destiny Child really is the better game. But in all fairness, I think part of the appeal of playing Destiny Child is you're really only getting titillation in Destiny Child. You're not getting any actual nudity. You're getting scantily clad anime girls, and sometimes scantily clad anime guys, but not to a large extreme. And so the tease aspect, I think, makes it a little bit classier and a little bit more acceptable. I wouldn't be upset with a 16 or 17 year old playing Destiny Child. I would probably be a little bit concerned if a 16-year-old was playing College Life. Mostly I'd be concerned if a 16 or 17-year-old was playing either one of those, because people playing adult video games tend not to be the people, when they are younger, they tend not to be the people going out on dates or seeking out real life relationships, which can certainly have long-term impacts on people. TechRaptor also has this Nutaku article that they're doing a Pornhub crossover. Is it Pornhub or Pornhub? Because the parent company that owns Pornhub also owns Nutaku. Did they misspell it? Let's see. And so it's like famous professional Pornhub, I assume, actors getting animated versions of them. Yeah, it's Pornhub. They literally can't even spell the name correctly in the title. Man, these people suck. Whoever their editor at TechCorruptor is, they need to be fired at this point. They put way too things. So these girls are showing up in different games. These models. I don't know if that's really a smart crossover or not. It's a decent, easy crossover for sure to get Pornhub models who are probably directly under the payroll of Pornhub to work for their sister company Nutaku, or sell their likeness, or maybe they had already sold their likeness by being a Pornhub model. It's an easy crossover. It's not a particularly great crossover. It would be way more impactful if somebody came out and said that there was a Pornhub to what is the Blizzard player versus player game I'm thinking of? Overwatch, yeah. There was all this talk about how Activision Blizzard hated that there was a bunch of Overwatch porn on Pornhub, and I think they still probably hate it and just don't want to Streisand affect it. But if they had signed an agreement and there was an Overwatch / Pornhub crossover where Pornhub models were showing up in Overwatch, that would be way more impactful. Or this kind of might have been a thing that would have worked in Duke Nukem Forever very easily, to have a crossover there. It would have worked fairly well in even a Borderlands 3 to have some porn actress show up in Borderlands. So yeah, there are way more impactful crossovers than one company crossing over with a sister company. It's kind of like how Gamma Sutra's articles often promote GDC because the parent company owns both of them. I suppose it's worth mentioning that the Game Grumps are in House Party, which is an adult game, so that's kind of a impactful crossover. Let's see. Well, I think I've got this in the bag. Let's see. Next, we have a game on Steam called My Hidden Things, which looks like it's a black and white something or another. I don't know. It looks kind of low effort. I don't know if it's... I thought it might be a hidden object game, but they're saying it's a casual puzzle game. You can see some movement here in this video, and movement certainly would change my opinion as far as some of this, but I'd say the most of this does just look like it's almost an interactive storybook. $7.69 or 64 cents, and English, Russian, and Spanish. Yeah, I'm having a hard time justifying putting this on the follow list. It just looks too simplistic of a game, so I'm not going to bother to do that. Let's see, it's going Get rid of this. I believe Half-Life Alyx's soundtrack is now available for purchase or stream via, you can buy it on Steam, you can stream it on Spotify, Apple Music, or Deezer. Haven't even heard of Deezer. Which that probably means something. Alright, they're gonna mess me up this way. It's not gonna win. I didn't hear anybody actually talk about Half-Life Alyx's soundtrack. It's probably fine. I also know there was an update to Half-Life Alyx where they put water inside a lot of the bottles and added some water fluid physics, which changes the game ever so slightly. It's just like a tiny little experiment I imagine they wanted to add just to continue to expand the physics engine inside of whatever engine Half-Life Alyx is created in. Whether that is the new version of Source 2, which would have probably been the dozenth iteration of Source 2, or whether this is some completely different system. Well. There we go. That was all I needed. By sacrificing a creature with afterlife, I got a food token and a flying creature. Take its sweet time to load a screen. Apparently we all of a sudden now have a play white or green spell card daily quest, which doesn't make sense. I don't believe that was the case before, but heck, why not? We'll just play some white cards. Meanwhile, TechRaptor has an article here. Bobby Kotick's salary upsets Activision Blizzard shareholders. Which probably goes to show that even the shareholders don't have enough of Activision Blizzard. Let's see. 2 proxy advisory service firms have made the recommendation for Activision Blizzard shareholders to vote against a proposal that would keep Kotick's compensation package in line with the previous years. The recommendation was supported by the CTW Invest Group, an organization that focuses on targeting executive pay and unethical corporate behavior. Well, that's Activision Blizzard in a nutshell. It says, despite repeated low approval votes from shareholders, Activision Blizzard maintains multiple overlapping opportunities for its CEO to earn outsized equity awards, even when performance-related vesting thresholds have not been met, states the filing made to the SEC by the CTW. The question is, would shareholders even know about this if you're not a shareholder who is in the know? Like, because you probably won't. Like, most people that even have voting shares usually just get a voting ballot or a voting ballot from the company themselves, and the voting ballot clearly says, we want you to vote this way, we recommend you vote this way. And often, if you're making money, or at least you perceive that you're making money, people will vote in the favor of them making money over any kind of other ethical concerns or other concerns. Let's see, we could go through the rest of this article, but the USAL's list of the most overpaid CEOs for 2019, it lists his cash compensation at $26,698,375, and he is the 45th most overpaid person according to that list. And I can't help but agree in a lot of ways, because in the end, Activision Blizzard has failed to keep its audience happy. It's failed to make good products. It's failed to increase or maintain sales. It's failed in like every aspect possible. That you could consider. And Bobby Kotick, every time I say his name, I have this fuzzy memory in my head that I don't like him for some reason, and that is not the way that you want to have a reaction to a CEO. Like, I don't even know what drama Bobby Kotick has caused, but I know the drama Activision Blizzard has caused. I know that instead of focusing on making more games and good games, they seem to be focusing on making mobile games and expansions and DLC. So yeah, I don't think too many people will care to agree with Bobby Kotick that he should be paid the money he's making. But does that mean people will vote to limit his pay? Maybe. Does that inevitably end up with him leaving the company? Probably not. If he does leave the company, he's going to leave with some kind of golden parachute, I imagine. Let's see. Can we mutate this? So yeah, maybe the problem though really with Activision Blizzard is that it needs to just fail completely and be broken up, and they've already lost, I think, the majority of their skilled employees over the past decade or so. So there's kind of nobody at Activision Blizzard that they could turn that ship around. So your best case scenario, I think, really just boils down to the whole company goes out of business and they then decide to sell the licenses out of bankruptcy to other people. And if Ben Brode, for instance, got Hearthstone and got started owning Hearthstone, I don't know if that's even still enough to fix Hearthstone, because it really would be just a dead game at that point. Hearthstone is just too old now. If the people who are working on who made Diablo 1 and Diablo 2 got the rights back to Diablo, I don't think the story of Diablo has ever been amazingly that good. It would just let you make a new game called Diablo and have the same art style and not be at threat of being sued out of existence. Warcraft, Starcraft certainly are things that could be worked on. But Activision Blizzard is also going to have trouble with Warcraft or StarCraft since EA just put out Red Alert Remastered. So, yeah. They don't really have a lot of opportunities. Overwatch is not going to gain more people. World of Warcraft is not going to gain more people. And it doesn't seem like Heroes of the Storm, they're not doing anything with that anymore. So, I don't think Activision or Blizzard have any games of any interest that you would want to make a sequel for or try to have some kind of property come out from. Moving on, we have a game on Steam called Opening Up, which looks like it is just an asset flip horror game from the looks of it. Or maybe walking simulator. But yeah, it's $8.99 English full audio. See, even if this was a game as good as Gone Home, I think Gone Home is the only game that's ever going to be allowed to basically be a collection of asset flips in which you walk around a house and nothing happens. That and PT pretty much killed any chance of anybody else pulling off those tricks for a very long time. So if Opening Up was really good, which it does not look like it's really good, the only way I'd ever even hear about it is if it just gained a lot of coverage and a lot of traction. And it is fair to also mention that a significant amount of the buzz around Gone Home was because the people who were working on that game made the right connections and made the right contacts. See. Let's put this on the field. Then in the turn. Moving on, Gamatsu has an article. For the PC, Burnout Paradise, Mirror's Edge Catalyst, Need for Speed Heat, and even more EA titles are now available via Steam. It seems like Electronic Arts' strategy is to remove or not publish new games on Steam every 4 or 5 years, then give up on that strategy and put these now old games for this new generation, like 4 or 5 year old games, on the Steam, and then try to get people to be happy about that and buy these old games at fairly marked up prices. And it's not like it's a strategy that utterly completely fails, because in all honesty, if we look at here, right now everything is 75% off what it normally would be, which is to say that they are way overpriced, like, for the age of this. Like, Crysis 3 for $10 isn't a terrible idea. Dragon Age 2 Inquisition, or Dragon Age 2 and Dragon Age Inquisition, for about $20, $12. Mirror's Edge Catalyst for $10. Fee for $10. I might get that. I'm not sure if I'd really bother to get all the Need for Speeds. Plants vs. Zombies Battle for Naperville for $20. I think this game was mostly a multiplayer game, and it almost certainly has no community. Sea of Solitude for $10. That's a little expensive, but not terrible. And then Unravel and Unravel 2 both for $10. So that's... They also announced EA Access, a subscription-based video game service that will be available via Steam later this summer. And it includes access to titles above as well as many others. And they also released Command & Conquer Remastered Collection, which is due out June 5th with Steam Workshop support. So, yeah. You're in a bit of a weird position, for sure, there, where even at 75% off, these games are not getting major discounts. They don't probably have a chance of being on sale during the Steam Summer Sale. There definitely are games in that list that I would like to cover and like to own, and I'd like to own them on Steam and not through some EA account. I believe it's EA that owns Alice, and American McGee's Alice, and Alice Madness Returns, the sequel to that. And yeah, there's no indication that those games are going to come to Steam. And those are more of the niche titles where I think people would be willing to pay extra. Let's see. Can I literally do nothing? Oh, and I just paid 3 mana to bring it to my hand. I forgot the companions changed how they work. So I just paid 3 mana to bring it to my hand, and now he knows I have it in my hand. TechCrafter has the same article. Update: EA games return to Steam with some notable exceptions. Let's see. Let's see what the update is. The summer event that Bank is referring to is EA Play, which currently is scheduled for next week, June 11th at 4 p.m. Since publishing the original story, EA has released an official statement on these games returning to Steam and the ability to subscribe to EA Access. So yeah, not much of an update. Nor is... here's just like a full link to the list, I guess, of all the games. Block that. Block that. Block that. Block that. Yeah, I can't help but wonder if I'm having bad internet or if something I did to my internet on Monday now is just causing pages to not load. But yeah. So that list of games coming to Steam, not coming up, but it won't really matter because we can get to it in a different way later on. I'm gonna lose here, but it doesn't kind of matter, just play white cards. I clearly don't have enough mana. Next we have a game on Steam called Long Car Journey, a road trip game, and I believe this is the reason why I was thinking about if anybody actually likes road trips. I've seen several examples of games like this where it's trying to be an experience or a story of taking a long road trip. I don't think there's a game here. I think really all this is a slight spin on a trucking simulator game where you would drive trucks, which is a game where you're doing somebody's job. And I just don't see entertainment in that. This. that. Maybe we'll play 9 more cards here. So the next game we have on Steam is Dragon Age 2. And see, here's the problem. Like, it could be that these games aren't actually good. It could be that these games have third-party accounts. Let's see. Incorporates third-party DRM, EA online activation of Origin client, software installation and background user required. Requires third-party EA account and requires the third-party EULA. So I wouldn't be surprised. It doesn't have controller support. So it could be a lot of these games just suck. It could be a lot of these games haven't really been under the microscope or haven't been reviewable on EA Origins platform, or so things like this we can put on the fall list and think about it, but right now there's more mixed reviews than positive reviews. And see, if we look at Electronic Arts, we have Command & Conquer, Crysis 3, Need for Speed. Let's see if any of these games were not the ones we already talked about. Warp, I think, was from 2012. And Jedi Fallen Order was 2019. So between 2012 and 2019, for 7 years, EA, according to this, has not put out anything on Steam. And I'd like to play Mirror's Edge Catalyst, but it's really closer to a $5 game, honestly. There's a decent amount of things here. Dead Space 3, not on Steam, I don't think. I played the first one of these, so Thong of Virtue makes sense to get, but it's $15. It's not worth that at all. As we start to look at, I don't know how much of Mass Effect really is relevant anymore. Red Alert 3, Uprising, Plants vs. Zombies from 2009, the original Mirror's Edge. I feel like and this is $2 now, right now. I feel like even when Mirror's Edge 1 was on sale, when I got around to buying it, it was more expensive and more difficult to purchase than it should have been. And what this list here really goes to show you is that EA's heyday was 11 years ago, when Command & Conquer Red Alert 3 was getting republished, when Mass Effect 1 was getting republished. Insane Aquarium. Like, their heyday was a while ago, and they really haven't done a lot to justify their existence. And people know that about EA, certainly. That's obvious. That they haven't been doing anything other than publishing sports games, and they don't really have any intention of doing anything other than publishing sports games. Well, I think we have to cycle. Probably should have cycled first. I think we already talked about this, but TechRaptor has an article. Konami returns to third-party publishing on consoles and PCs. Last time I think we talked about this, I said it would be really, really dumb for any company to actually go into business with Konami. I still stand by that idea. I think it would be incredibly, incredibly dumb for anybody to go into business with them. This guy has reach, so he'll try and block me, I guess. So we have a lot of games here, like Unravel 2, that I just will put on the follow list. I'll say even the games that EA did make in the past 7 years that were somewhat good, even those aren't amazingly great. Like, they still aren't like, you've got to play this style system sellers. Like, there's nothing I can do. So I should just play a white card. That's all I'm trying to do right now, is just buy time playing white cards. And I imagine I have to play mono white cards and not something that's half white, half black. Here we have Dragon Age Inquisition. It too is getting mixed. I remember I played one of these games because I remember this character. I probably played the first Dragon Age. It was long, but it kind of had an interesting story. But yeah, it too seems to be mixed. So they really aren't setting the world on fire with the quality of these games, or with the DLC in the games, or like these aren't getting labeled as special editions with all the DLC, but maybe EA didn't do a lot of DLC. Put Faye on the follow list. But they also aren't remastered editions. They definitely have third-party DRM. This Sea of Solitude game looked interesting when we saw the teaser for it, but if I recall correctly, reviews said, yeah, it's an average psychological tale. It would be an interesting game to cover compared to The Evil Within 2, considering how it is this weird psychological experience, if it's even worth owning, which might be a big if. It may not be worth owning at all. I definitely feel like there's probably a dozen other EA games that haven't either ever been on PC or that are on EA Origin and still not on Steam. This is a good thing in the long run, I imagine, because I should probably just change this test deck instead of wasting my time playing games and failing after the 4th or 5th turn because I just don't have enough mana. I should just put in more mana. Yeah. Here's Unravel 1. It's rated positive. This is the first game. Yeah, it is a good move if this is the beginning of them getting rid of EA Origin. I don't know if it really is the beginning of them getting rid of EA Origin, though. Or if this is just them trying to double dip. Here we have Need for Speed 1, which I believe is a remake of the Need for Speed series. And it's mixed also. It really does go to show something now, that people aren't just super happy and chomping at the bit that these games are now on Steam. Because I guess people are probably just upset by the fact that they couldn't play these games when they were out. Here we have Need for Speed Rivals, which is mixed. So next time I do a follow list cleanup, there will just be a decent amount of EA games. Here is Plants vs. Zombies Battle for Neighborville, which there's a sequel to this. Plants vs. Zombies Modern Garden Warfare or something like that. Like, can you even play this single player? Apparently you can, but they want $20 for it, and then they want another $10 for DLC. You can see how it's mixed here. Like, in a funny way, instead of seeing EA give up on EA Origin and finally putting some games on Steam, you might be better suited as a consumer if EA just went out of business completely due to being blacklisted and not supported and nobody playing their games or buying their games. And then some other company swooping in and owning the licenses to those games. Because those are very different games too. Like, the company that should own the IP for Mirror's Edge should be probably different than the company that owns the IP for Unravel. And that should be different from the people who own, like, the EA Sports lineup. And that should be different from the Dragon's Age company. Dragon's Age in particular, and Mass Effect. Those are stories that should have been developed and written by small, like, independent studios that do AA games, not a major AAA company that only wants to make the biggest of the biggest games and make the most of the most profit. There definitely should be a different company making Plants vs. Zombies games compared to Dragon's Age games. They're just so different. And I don't really think that there is a benefit in having a very large conglomeration corporation in the world of making video games. Because the one thing that you would think a big corporation like THQ Nordic or EA, the one thing you would think that they would have is that they would have more funding and more time to develop smaller and more risky games, not general average games that have to sell 5 million copies to make a profit. Ubisoft is a great example of those kind of corporations too. But that's never the case. It is just never the case that any of the big companies, Ubisoft, THQ Nordic, EA, none of them ever take that attitude that they're willing to make a small indie delight and Emmy style game that is just trying to get like rewards and applause from artists. Everything has to have global appeal. And EA is the worst example of that, really, compared to any of the other companies. And that's why EA has only been making EA Sports games, is because they have been totally unwilling to experiment or go in a weird direction. Anyways, moving on, we have a game called The Wizard's Dark Times that's rated positive. That's not an EA game. And yeah, doesn't look terrible. It might be a VR game. It's $22.49, English full audio. It looks like an actual VR game though, an actual game in VR. And we've seen many examples where you play as a magician who waves their hands around and throws fireballs or lightning. This also seems to have some archery elements. There's a lot that seems to be happening here that I don't think actually would work the way it's being depicted, because the guy does seem to just be moving his hands around, but maybe he's got some new controller that can recognize gestures. But yeah, this trailer I think probably is a little bit more realistic. I'm gonna put this on the fall list. Again, I may almost certainly never own a VR headset. Like, even if I was to get a VR headset, at this point, I don't think I could stand long enough. Like, you would see 5-minute spotlights, 10-minute videos from me, really, because it would just be so incredibly painful for me to stand up and stay standing. And yeah, so that probably is a good indication I should just go and remove all VR games from the follow list next time we do a follow list cleanup. I'm gonna give that definitely some more thought. Next we have Need for Speed Heat, which is also mixed. Yep. I kind of wonder, is there, besides the first Need for Speed, is there a Need for Speed that is good that didn't get put on Steam? And here we have Crysis 3, and I'm a little questioning Crysis 3 compared to Crysis 2 and Crysis 1. Like, either I already own Crysis 2 and Crysis 1, and that's why they're not being shown to me, or EA did not publish Crysis 1 and Crysis 2. We can see Crysis 3 here is marked as very positive. And I do think that there is a small argument to playing the Crysis games, because they are some of those games that push CPU and GPU technology forward. So it'd be interesting to see how well my computer could handle it. I think mostly though my computer can handle anything at 1080p, and I have no intention of going above 1080p anytime soon. I could see an argument for going above 60 frames per second in some games, but a lot of games also just can't handle going above 60, or can't even get a steady 60 anyways. So the better argument to get a monitor that can go over 60 is to have something that's more of a FreeSync monitor that lets it go above 60 sometimes, but below 60 to like 50 a lot of times also. And I'm not sure if that really changes much or improves anything. Gamatsu has an article here. A future GPX cyber formula, Sinveer, has been rated for PS4 in Taiwan. So the name of the game is Sinveer, or Sinveer. So, looks like a racing game. It feels like it might be kind of anime-ish, but I bet it won't go crazy off the rails. TechRaptor has an article here. A cancelled arcade game is being released after 27 years. So, a 27-year-old arcade game, you can see it here. It's called Clockwork Aquario. It probably won't be very finished or polished, and a 27-year-old arcade game isn't going to really be anything. It's not like that is going to be the best arcade game that ever could have existed, and all of video gaming's history would have been changed had this one game not been canceled. Let's see, attack here and attack here. Can't attack or block. Got him. Next we have a game on Steam called Zeph, which is apparently an exploration single player game. It looks a little asset flippy, but I kind of like the art style too, and I am kind of a sucker for attempts at making 3D platforming games. So I'm going to put it on the fall list out of generosity. $3.99, English full audio. It probably will never get 20 reviews by the time I get to a fall list cleanup, and I will probably remove it at that point. Okay. Let's see. Why is this unblockable? It's unblockable because of its special ability. So I think we've got this. We play this and then we play this. We might actually win here. Alright, do this. And this one will block, so we can't do anything else. TechRaptor has an article here. The Microsoft Store leaks Namco Museum Archives Volume 1 and Volume 2. Namco apparently is what they're going to call it in the West instead of Namcot, which includes a collection of old arcade games. Alright. Looks interesting enough. Although in all fairness, I think a lot of these games are being sold for the 5th, if not dozenth time. Let's see, Komatsu has an article here. Necromundia Underhive Wars launches this summer. It's a tactical RPG. It looks interesting. This image. Let's see. They seem to have a plethora of attractive females in every image. It feels kind of Mad Maxy with is this perhaps trying to be a little bit more hardcore Borderlands style, Mad Maxy style than what Borderlands 3 was? Maybe. I guess the real question is that'll come about from that is let's see. This will gain some health. And then this. So now I can safely attack with this one. And either I'm going to get a full shot or not. Yeah, they say this Necromundia is a tactical RPG, which I don't know if tactical RPG is what you would describe Borderlands as or not. It was a first-person shooter RPG is what I would describe Borderlands as, but I guess I could be wrong as to what the standard description is, or maybe there's multiple descriptions. Komatsu has an article here for the PS4 and Switch. The Root Film 3rd trailer is now available. Root Film, the 3rd visual novel horror story, I think. from the Root Squared series, I believe. They decided they had lost. And that's great and all that they conceded, but I just needed to play white cards. And see, this definitely is a problem with creating a deck that is a test deck to play white cards, and then mixing half of the white cards with black cards to then have a test deck, something that might actually be playable and doable. We still have really failed to find any other deck other than our black deck that's actually playable. Let's go back to ranked now and just try to get ranked to win these. Next we have a game on Steam here called Taken Away, which is tagged as a violent puzzle game. Looks to me like it's a horror asset flip game. And I just don't feel like I can even be generous to these games anymore, because they're just coming so often that you have this wander around someplace, find items that are randomly placed type games. And they're saying it's like Resident Evil 4. No, it's not. This is $6.99, English, allegedly full audio, a bunch of other languages. Yeah, I just don't think those kinds of games are going to be allowed on the follow list. If a game like that comes out and it is just amazingly good, I'm just gonna have to hope that I get that information from somebody else, that somebody reviews it and somebody talks about it, somebody brings it to my attention, and thus it becomes relevant. And in a lot of ways, a lot of games that were talked about by Giant Bomb 5-10 years ago were brought to my attention, and they really weren't ever relevant. Like, there definitely are games on my channel that I covered because Giant Bomb convinced me that they were games worth playing, when had I stuck to more of a standardized system of seeing how many people actually have reviewed it on Steam, how many people put their money where their mouth was and bought the games and liked it, I definitely would have played different games. Maybe not any better games, but different games. And wouldn't feel like I was led by the nose by a kind of big organization that was just advertising to me more than being a consumer advice service, which a lot of the mainstream video game journalists are just advertising to you for one reason or another. Yeah, and the Giant Beast Cast this week was another one of those podcasts that saw fit to not talk about video games, even though they were a video game podcast for the first 20 minutes of their stream, which again is annoying if you're trying to get away from daily news, trying to have a break. Moving on, we have a game on Steam called Falcon City, which says it's an RPG. It looks to me like it's probably a point and click adventure game. What's funny is you have this like gray rabbit that looks like he's not wearing any clothes under the jacket and he's just a flasher. I kind of feel like the person who drew these characters can't draw, so then I question how the backgrounds got drawn fairly well. I mean, they're not great, but they're not terrible either. I'm going to put this on the follow list. We can see it's already somewhat positively reviewed. Looks like it might be an interesting enough story to overweigh slight visual problems in the animation. Next, we have a game on Steam called The Light Remake, which is looks like either a survival game, horror game, or for a second there I thought it might even be a visual novel. They say it's a walking simulator post-apocalypse. The thing I would say here, though, is this looks at least different and prettier. Each of these screenshots are done well in a way that they're not just in a standard asset flipped house. You're actually looking at a map. You're seeing well lit sections, and even when it's dark, you're seeing a little bits of light here and there in the screenshots. $4.99 English and Russian full audio. So, a walking simulator like that might be an interesting type game if it has like 2 endings and it takes less than an hour to play through the game once. Doing something like that might be an interesting contrast to playing a visual novel that has like multiple endings. But honestly, it probably would be just stacking 2 kind of niche games back to back. So I don't know if that would be really the way I would want to review games. This is to play like a standard Japanese visual novel with multiple endings, and then play something like the light remake. On the other hand, if I was to play like a romance Japanese visual novel where it's all about dating and romance, and then I was to play the light remake where it's obviously a horror game, that you are getting some pretty contrasting storylines there. And in all fairness, a larger percentage than it should be, a larger number of games are dark and depressing storylines. So trying to balance some of that out wouldn't be terrible. See, next we have a game on Steam called Hunter Hearts, which is terrible. It does look like it is a just marker drawn visual novel. It's tagged with sexual content. It looks pretty bad. In a funny way, I would probably call this a Western art style, but you could draw these same characters and in the same way and just use proper shading and toning so that they don't look like they were just colored in with a marker, and it would be a lot better. So, yeah. It would be the angles and the proportions and the hair colors that would make this more of a Western style compared to if these were anime girls. They would all be shorter and more chibi and more moe. Probably moe, not chibi, to use the right phrase. But you can see this is 69 cents and it's English only, and it's clearly just going to be a low effort thing. And the fact that it has Asian names and letters in it, but it doesn't support any Asian languages. And this is part 1 of part 3. It's not even finished as a story. That's pretty low effort. Pretty bad. An announcement came out through Steam that Slay the Spire is coming to iOS this month. Android version still in the works. That is a nice argument for me to potentially buy Slay the Spire. I don't think I own it, and if I do own it, play it. I would have to check to see if I own it, but I don't think I do. Slay the Spire is definitely one of those games that would be better suited playing on a mobile phone than playing on a PC. It's a fine game on the PC. It's just, since it is a card game that is kind of repetitive, mobile options would make more sense. Next, we have a game on Steam called Apollo Lunar Mission, which is a VR game for $3.99, English full audio. This doesn't look terrible. It's kind of like an educational style recreation of the Apollo Lunar Mission. It looks like it's all realistic experiences and not fake things. This isn't the original Apollo Lunar Mission, though, from what I can tell, because I don't think they had a vehicle with them in the first lunar landing. Maybe. I'm not sure there was ever a vehicle on the moon. I'd have to double check my... I'd have to double check that. But yeah, it doesn't look bad, so we'll put it on the fall list and we'll see what happens there. I'm suddenly getting kind of exhausted. As the summer months happen and it gets hotter in the United States, I may have even less energy. Like that. Here's the sign you're getting old and unhealthy. In a nutshell, it's like every time there's something new, it's awful because you're less capable of handling the weather. You're less capable of handling day-to-day activities like standing, walking, sitting. You're more tired faster. But yeah, I may very well have to start shortening these streams even more. Moving on, we have a game on Steam called Cradle Idle Clicker, which I don't think I'd actually buy an idle clicker, but this looks like quite the mess of an idle clicker too. It's mixed reviewed and a bunch of languages. It doesn't even really look like an idle clicker. And so, yeah. But I figured I'd mention it as we go through this. TechRaptor has an article here. DevKit patents reveal new PlayStation 5 info, which seems to imply that the PlayStation 5 is going to have that weird split. Interesting. I don't really know how the big split fixes anything for them, but I guess we could see what happens there. Yeah. At the end of the day, even though there is what looks like a lot of information here about where the airflow is going more than anything else, it seems to me like the PlayStation 5 is kind of stuck in a no-go zone until they decide that they can have an announcement, the next announcement, then the next announcement on that. Like, I think really until PlayStation can start to try to have a hype cycle and get people really, really hyped to buy the PlayStation this Christmas, which is what their intention is, it may just not. They may just pull the plug at the last second. Same is true for the Xbox. I think Microsoft is probably in a much better position where they could say, yeah, we'll sell a few copies of the Xbox Series X this Christmas, but the real launch will be next year. But the PlayStation 5 is a little bit more committed to that because it's Sony that has told people that they should be making PlayStation 5 versions of games, and that the PlayStation 5 games should not be designed in such a way as that they are dumbed down PlayStation 4 versions of the games that just happen to run on the PlayStation 5. So they are definitely promoting the idea of this PlayStation 5 is going to come out and it is going to be the focus, where Microsoft at any point could say, yeah, we'll just forget about the Series X and we'll launch it with even better specs next year. Like, it wouldn't be too much, really, to add a little bit more RAM, or add a little bit better cooling, or add a little bit more storage to a Xbox Series X and make it a year better, or just a year cheaper, not change any of the hardware specs at all, and just say we'll wait a year, and because we can wait a year, it'll launch at a cheaper price. I could imagine a lot of people would be very happy with the Xbox Series X selling for $400 even instead of $500. Moving on, TechRaptor has an article here. The Xbox Beta PC Store receives modding support. So apparently there's this Xbox Beta app that they're working on. Apparently it's been around since 2019. Apparently, though, I haven't seen any of it because I don't get anything from the Xbox Store, the Xbox Game Pass, or anything like that. I stopped doing anything with Xbox after the 360 and went PC. And in all honesty, I kind of stopped playing games after the 360 for a while, and then slowly got back into playing PC games and playing games in general. TechRaptor has a rumor article. I've heard this from several sources, but they may all be reporting from the one original source. A Bloodborne PC port rumors have escalated after the delayed events of the PlayStation 5 event. There's also a PlayStation 5 port that's rumored also. I don't know if that really puts me personally in a different position though, because I don't know if I really would want to play Bloodborne. It would just be kind of an easy excuse to say, hey, let's play Bloodborne, and that way I can skip playing the Demon Souls, Dark Souls series, since Bloodborne is just a better version of those games. But in all honesty, why not just play Code Vein, which is a better version of Bloodborne? Or at least it tried to be that, and it's the most recent one. So that there's logical reasons to, if I'm trying to avoid playing any of these super difficult Dark Souls style games, just play the most recent one or don't play any of them at all. Meanwhile, I guess if I had a lot of extra time on my hands and I really, really wanted to play Bloodborne, that would be an option now. Moving on, we have a game on Steam called Atlantis Royale, which I don't really get the Atlantis part. It seems like you're just playing as little toy creatures. And it does feel very just kind of asset flippy. $11.99, third party account, third party EULA, English only. Don't see anything interesting there. See, Gamatsu has an article here. Cook Serve Delicious 3 launches for the PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC this fall. They are making cook serve delicious games a little faster than I think they probably should. TechRaptor has an article here, and this does potentially get into some politics and video games for no reason again, but I think it's probably worth mentioning that a Animal Crossing Tiananmen Square memorial was organized by Hong Kong goers who are increasingly being persecuted and attacked by mainland Chinese, and the Tiananmen Square massacre anniversary happened just a couple of days ago. The only good news I've heard of as far as Hong Kong and lately is that the UK Prime Minister made some claim that he probably can't enforce that would allow a lot of Hong Kong people who are working in Hong Kong to get a path towards citizenship in Hong Kong, which in the UK, but that probably wouldn't go anywhere. And meanwhile, in comparison, some politician in the Canada said that United States citizens should be allowed to claim refugee status and move to Canada, and yeah, that definitely wouldn't go anywhere either. See, the main problem with immigration around the world is nobody wants new people anywhere. Very rarely. We may want cheap labor in a country, but you don't want just random people. In fact, the only countries that really even would slightly benefit from having immigration and people enter their country and build up their populace would be aging countries like Japan, and even they don't want immigrants because they don't want to see their country flooded with foreigners, for better or for worse. TechRaptor has an article here. The Magic Core Set 2021 reveals. They have some of them here, but I don't know if they have a bunch here. This is kind of a great example of just how Magic has gotten ridiculous. You have your standard cards, which look perfectly fine, but then they have these showcase cards, which are actually harder to view, and then they have these borderless versions of cards that frankly should just not exist at all. I think the border kind of needs to exist always just to maintain standardness, and these are just sold to be a new kind of rarity. I think this is unnecessary too. I think in the end they should just stick with standard and make everything standard. And alternate art cards are unnecessary, and extended, I will argue that the extended art does kind of look a little bit nicer than having a black border and then a green border in this, but often this extended art is just zoomed in and it doesn't even look really that good in person. And there's just really no need for this. If everything was extended art with a black border, I'd be fine with that. Let's see. is there anything else to talk about? There's going to be a ton of cards. Here we have a showcase frame. Just like tons of different versions. If only Magic would spend more time making their games balanced and test playing instead of trying to sell different versions and make money. And clearly they don't have a full list here in this. They don't have a full list yet of all the cards. But I do think a lot of the cards will just be reprints also. And so I don't know how many of those reprints I will need for my deck, and how many of those reprints will be cards that aren't from either Throne of Eldraine or Ikora or Theros Beyond Death. Because if there's a ton of reprints from the 3 previous expansions, that makes no sense at all. If there's a ton of reprints from previous expansions that are about to leave Standard and go into Historic, then that does make some sense. Well, this guy's gonna do 7 damage to me. Let's see what he does. Well, I was wrecked there. Come on, Bolus though. That's what we need. Sacrifice one of these guys. Put this guy back on the field. See, next we have Command & Conquer Remastered Edition. It's rated very positively. I have it on the following list. It's $19.99. Doesn't seem like there's any DLC. Honestly, they should have probably had a rethink as far as how they would release Command & Conquer and Command & Conquer Red Alert and Tiberian Sun and all of those games. The remaster though isn't gonna be much, though. I think this might have been one of those games where they ran a artificial intelligence super sampling AI over it to improve the graphics, but the graphics were not particularly even at a high resolution when they were originally filmed. So yeah, I'll put this on the wish list. I'd love to own this. I probably would only spotlight it. I don't know if I could find enough time in my life to bother with trying to cover all of those, play the entirety of Command & Conquer. If I was going to play it, I would definitely play it on easy, and I would definitely try to get through it as fast as possible. But it definitely is a game also that's relevant enough to own. There really is no justification for not owning it. On the other hand, I'm not sure if I didn't already own Command & Conquer, the original game, in the original version, so I'm not sure if I'm not getting potentially double charged for a remaster that maybe should have been a free update, but maybe not. I mean, that's always a iffy situation. I'm not sure if a consumer should be entitled to a remaster upgrade or not. I feel like a lot of times that you should be, if you're a loyal customer who bought the game before then. Attack, 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 attack. What's this gonna do? Well, if that's gonna happen, then we'll do this. And then we'll do this. And then we'll do this. And then we'll do this. Then we'll put that back on the field. Let's see. Gamma Sutra has an article here. Sony has been fined $3.5 million for issuing misleading refund advice to PlayStation users. I believe this was in Australia that they were fined. I think we already talked about that. Let's see. TechRaptor has an article. Pokemon Go raids will let you invite friends this month. You won't go alone anymore. Okay. Let's see. Here we have a game on Steam called Possession 1881, which looks like it is a horror puzzle game with some blurry dark images. Yeah, it's $14.44, English full audio. I want to put this on the fall list not because I think it's a good game that I actually play, but I actually want to see if anybody spends enough money to review this game. Because it seems particularly expensive. Right, let that do 10 damage. See, next we have a game on Steam called A Game of Humans, which looks like it is a city building, city management sim. It looks nice, but kind of just generic and a little asset flippy. The water looks pretty nice. Early access 1619. English only. Not seeing anything special there. All I need would be Bolas Citadel, really, and I could win, but if I don't manage to draw Bolas Citadel, we may have a problem. TechRaptor has an article here, 25 years of Earthbound. People really like Earthbound, but I'm not sure if there's really any relevant reason to be talking about Earthbound right now, other than an anniversary, a number on the calendar. See. Gamma Sutra has an article here. Sim Refinery, a long-lost training simulator for Maxis, has been recovered. I believe, though, that this isn't actually as much a game as this was an app to train people how to handle and run refineries, because Maxis also on top of making sim games, we're making simulators for like employee education purposes. So I think that's the case with that. Yeah, and we can see that 3 hours ago they did say they will be performing unscheduled maintenance at approximately 2 p.m. So they had to put out a hotfix. So it's not just me and my internet. Magic Arena has been having trouble. Although my internet may not be helping much. See, Tech Raptor has an article here. Path of Exile Harvest expansion announced coming June 19th. No additional cost required. Yeah. I am not 100% sure if playing something like Path of Exile, which is new, doesn't kind of trump the idea of playing something like Dragon Age. Although, looking at it now, it looks like Path of Exile is closer to a Diablo game than anything. Yes, this definitely feels like Diablo 2. Alright, well, maybe I should be playing Path of Exile. That does not look bad at all. Which again gets back to the thought of Bobby Kotick being overpaid and they're not really needing to be a Diablo 4 because you can just make a game called Path of Exile and make a game look and feel a lot like Diablo 4 anyways. Check out there's an article here. A Total War Saga Troy blends myth with reality. So it's called Troy, A Total War Saga. Okay. This looks like one of those games where you have a huge amount of army people fighting each other. Probably would prefer to play a Total War game over playing Totally Accurate Battle Simulator though. I think there's more of a game there. Alright, so we're gonna block this and then block this and then block that and then block that. Then we're gonna sacrifice this, but he's back up to 15, so really only Bola Citadel would save us. And I am just in this weird position where I'm uncomfortable in the chair. I feel like I've been playing long enough. Magic Arena does not agree that I've been playing long enough because I don't have 15 victories. I don't even have 10. And we're close to the end of the news. But I wanted to do some more wishlist cleanup, and I don't think I'm going to be able to do that. There, I just lost my guy. So unless I got Bola Citadel this turn, I should just concede. Yeah. Just concede and save ourselves. And we're having a heck of a time trying to get anywhere with the ranks. It's just up and down, up and down, up and down. And yeah, I feel like I'm a little salty. Like, I'm a little tired of playing Magic after this week. Moving on, we have a game on Steam called Vale Victorian, or Valley Victorian, which looks like it's a horror asset flip game. Yeah, looks uninteresting. $4.99, English only. Right. We've got way too many horror asset flip games, and we're not anywhere close to October to even justify that. Next, we have a game on Steam called Karen's Crypt, Even Death May Die, which looks like it is a Game Boy style game with potential frame of a Game Boy screen. In all fairness though, compared to a lot of games that are inspired by Game Boy, this is clearly a Game Boy Color inspired game with graphics that actually look alright, and they aren't just incredibly small and pixely with 4 colors of grayscale. So I think this actually deserves a follow. It's $13.49, English, Spain, Spanish. Like, it seems almost reasonable here, instead of so many games that are just like, oh yeah, you have nostalgia for Game Boy, here's a hideous black and white game that has probably only 2 hours of gameplay. Moving on, Gamatsu has an article for PC, PS5, smartphone, and Switch. A game called Death Come True launches June 25th. Looks like it might be full motion video, and definitely looks like it's either a Korean story or a Japanese story. It's written and directed from the Danganronpa creator, so it does have some actual credentials behind it, although who knows what that really means. And these full motion video games can be weird even when they're done by a Western group. They're probably going to be extremely weird when done by a Japanese group. Let's play this. And play this. Maybe I should have played this. Fridays seem to just always take longer than Mondays or Wednesdays. I wish there was a way to stop that from happening. The only real way I've been able to even make any progress towards that is by simply having games left over for Monday, which isn't a terrible thought really, but something I would kind of want to avoid doing. There we go. Go ahead and attack with this one. Next we have a game on Steam called The Ninth Way, which looks like it's kind of a low polygonal dark VR game where you cast spells with your hands. It doesn't look visually polished, although I do think that the control stick idea here of different selectors might be interesting, like mixing like green magic with red magic or something. It's $7.99 and English full audio. It's just not visually polished enough though to deserve to be on the follow list. I'd have to be extremely generous just because I saw the beginnings of a gameplay concept that kind of makes sense, and I'm not going to be that generous. Next we have a game on Steam called Inconsistencies, which I suppose this is probably a dark asset flip horror game where things jump around when you're not looking, which can be certainly creepy, if that really is what happens. I'm just guessing based on the name. What the game is actually showing me is just a bunch of terrible dark screenshots. It's $4.99 English full audio. Yeah, definitely doesn't seem like there's any games there or anything to talk about there. Let's see. Komatsu has an article here. NetEase Games establishes a Shibuya-based Oka Studio to develop next-generation console games. So NetEase is, I believe, a Chinese company. Doesn't NetEase own part of Tencent, or Tencent own part of NetEase? Or is NetEase the other Chinese company? Or maybe it's not a Chinese company at all and I'm just totally wrong. That might be the case too. Next we have a game on Steam called Luna the Dimensional Watcher. Speaking of Chinese games, this has way too much text on screen. I can't but assume that this is a Chinese game. Some card-based RPG, brawler, infinite runner, beat 'em up RPG. Just like 5 or 6 concepts all thrown together. It's free to play with in-app purchases, and it's English and Korean. Alright, I was wrong. It's not a Chinese mix of garbage, it's a Korean mix of garbage. It's just way too much there. No consistent thought. It's ADD. See. Next we have a game on Steam called Sentimental K, which is apparently a roguelike 3D game. It looks interesting, but it might be just a Chinese like vertical slice demo game. You're not seeing a lot of gameplay here or a lot of enemies. It's early access, $17.49, English Korean again. Well, maybe we're just starting to get an influx of different types of Korean games. I'll put Sentimental K on the fall list, but I bet it gets reviewed fairly badly, fairly quickly. Next, we have a game called The Island Story, and take note that we've seen not really any new AAA games with the exception of Red Alert Remastered, Command & Conquer Remastered, not Red Alert Remastered. This is just a low-effort asset flip, low-polygon game. $4.49, English and Chinese. But yeah, it's no surprise that we're getting less and less quality AAA games as more and more reasons appear to delay the development of or the release of those kinds of games. I don't think he was paying enough attention there. See. Next we have a game on Steam called Spooky Spins Deluxe Steam Edition. Again, we are not close enough to Halloween for this to come out. Doesn't look like a terrible 5-line, but potentially 5-line slot machine. But I don't know why you'd spend $6.99 for one slot machine and have to agree to a third-party EULA. Yeah, that is way too expensive. Let's see. Let's go ahead and attack with this. Komatsu has an article for the PS4, the PC, and the smartphone. Genshin Impact final closed beta test is set for July. So, a game called Genshin Impact is being developed. It's probably a shoot 'em up game if I was to guess. Next we have a game called Ninja Scarf. By the way, I did curate some of these games. There definitely were games I just said, no, those are just garbage. I'm not going to mention them even. Ninja Scarf here looks like it is too basic of a platformer to actually be interesting. and it's just not animated well enough. $5, English only. TechRaptor has an article talking about how Microsoft leaked Kingdoms of Amalur Re-Reckoning. And I guess it was confirmed after that point, since we had already talked about that. Here we have a game on Steam, which is just a bunch of Asian letters, and you can see it's like a strategy game. Early access, English not supported, $4.24, Chinese only. Again, looks very busy, lots of people, lots of stuff going on. This will be our last game. And then Komatsu has an article here. Guerrilla Collective has been postponed to June 13th and to the 15th. Through the 15th, I guess is what that means. No longer June 6th, 7th, and 8th. Which means they only postponed it a week. Which, honestly, you probably should have postponed everything for a lot longer than that. Because, like, give yourself a month minimum. And so then that brings me to the Humble Bundle store. And I think I can kind of quickly tell you that there's almost certainly no new Humble Bundle. Although both Indie Gala and Humble Bundle are doing Black Lives Matter type sales or things. They're not making specific bundles. You would actually have quite a hard time making a bundle of even 9 games that were predominantly made by black video game creators. Like, you would have a real hard time there. And yeah, my wish list is not even loading, and I don't think I could stand to sit in this chair and go through the wish list, so I don't think we'll do any wish list cleanup at all today. I may do some off screen, but I don't know. Like, it seems like what will probably end up having happen is we will just do like a half cleanup until the Steam Summer Sale happens, and then that'll be that. Let's see. And the good news here, we have an article saying Valve has delayed the Steam Summer Sale Summer Game Festival, offering no reason. So, like, everything is just getting delayed. So, yeah. That definitely helps. It's been postponed to June 16th through the 22nd. They're calling it the Steam Game Festival Summer Edition, which I guess maybe is trying to indicate that it's not a summer sale, or that they're giving up on the branding of a summer sale. But that's pretty much kind of all the news. Like, I just went through my entire Twitter history and back to the where it was 3 hours ago. There's kind of nothing new. So we have this game on Steam that is a direct Donkey Kong ripoff, and yet it's coming to the Nintendo eShop, and it's not made by Nintendo. So I don't know. Like, I don't know why this is being allowed. I don't know why Nintendo would let it on the eShop, and I don't know if Castle Kong here legitimately may be a game worth playing. Things are different here. There's not a jump man and a monkey. Instead, there's a king and a prince trying to save a princess. It's free to play, but to unlock the full game, it's $10.04. That's a little deceptive. And apparently, there's a $5,000 bounty. This seems shady. This whole thing seems shady, so I want to put it on the fall list just for that reason. If this is still available for purchase 6 months from now and isn't DMCA'd and taken down, I will be shocked. But also maybe Nintendo has no court case that they could stand on because Snakes and Ladders is a little similar to Donkey Kong 2, so I don't know how much you can really copy. Even if they did get in a lawsuit, it would just remind everybody that they stole the name Donkey Kong, at least from King Kong, and there was a huge lawsuit that Nintendo won, even when they probably shouldn't have. Here we have another game on Steam called The Rain Time, which looks like it's really just a low-effort visual novel. It's free if you're interested. And then Gamma Sutra has the article, Valve delays the Steam Summer Game Festival, offering no reason. It was June 9th, now it's June 16th. Giving me, I guess, a little bit more time to do some wishlist cleanup and think about just how much I really want to spend in total this time around. Gamatsu also has a listing here for a job, which we've seen considerably fewer job listings on Gamma Sutra, not Gamatsu. Disbelief is looking for a programmer in Cambridge, Massachusetts. We really have not seen many job listings in the past month at all. And do we have anything else to talk about? No. So that's going to be it for this stream. And I'll just have to try and get 10 victories off screen. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a bunch of links down below in the description box. And if you want to support me further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and gift me a game off my wishlist. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.